Welcome back to Grid Drop. Today we're here for MyTeam episode 4 for the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix, so we're in Imola, which means it is our first sprint race of the season for this weekend. So I'm really excited about that. In real life I'm kind of iffy about them, but I love them in this game. It gives you an opportunity to do some more racing, so that's definitely something to be excited about. As for the new livery, I kind of changed it up. I added some red. The last livery was a little bit more classic Lotus F1 themed. And this one kind of reminds me of the Kimi Räikkönen days with Lotus and that kind of red on there. So let me know if you like it. I'll probably be tweaking this a little bit. I want to see how the light affects it in game, especially because the red is metallic. So I want to see how the light affects it. And if it kind of looks shitty, then I'll change it. But as for upgrades, so this is the R&D in progress. You can see we're third to last in the performance index on the right, but this is all the upgrades going on currently, and most of them are going to go on before Imola. So the only upgrade that's not going to make it on the car before Imola is the durability upgrade, which obviously is not too important for a single race weekend. So we have chassis, aero, and powertrain upgrades all going on the car. So hopefully that can boost us up the performance index a little bit. Hopefully we can overtake some of the other lower teams. But as of right now, we don't have enough space in the aero department to do 2 simultaneous upgrades. So I need to upgrade that in the department.
An upcoming news article has a question they'd like your input on.
I was wondering when this was going to happen. So we are going to pick Lance Stroll as our rival. Obviously, he was kind of the easy choice. He's in a slower car than the AlphaTauri of Pierre Gasly, and he's worse than Sebastian Vettel. So we're going to pick Lance Stroll as our rival. But as I was saying, so we only have one simultaneous upgrade we can do in aero. So once that aero upgrade's on, I'm going back into the upgrade menu, and I'm putting on another rear downforce upgrade. It has a pretty big discount. It's only 300 resource points, so that's definitely something worth putting on the car at this stage. So definitely gonna have to do some more upgrades in the department and get that sorted out. So you can see sprint race, potentially some rain at the end of the race. So that's gonna potentially open up the race for us and maybe give us a chance for some points.
Okay, there's a fault with the DRS. You will not be able to open the rear wing. We're working on a fix. Stay out for now.
Unfortunately, I got the DRS glitch. Kind of annoying.
DRS will be offline. There's a fault with the rear wing system. Stay out. We can work on a fix remotely.
Yeah, so that's pretty annoying, honestly. It happens to me all the time. I really wish they'd fix this glitch. It's tough to deal with in the simulations, like qualifying simulations or the race strategy simulation, because you have to burn your ERS down the main straight, and you end up losing time, and your delta almost goes negative by the first corner. So even with ERS fully charged up and being used, it kind of kills your time. So yeah, kind of annoying. It got fixed actually on this lap, so I was able to open up DRS on lap 3, which is nice. But yeah, these are just my practice laps, just making sure the setup's right. And you can see I have kind of a moment on the curb right there. That's not ideal. Just went a little too wide on the exit curb right there, and the car's a little low, so just went into a spin immediately. So I'm back in the pits. But yeah, so first sprint race weekend. So we're gonna have qualifying after FP1. So as for qualifying, I'm putting I'm getting an engine component change. I'm getting a new ICE. Ours was about 40% worn, so I wanted to get that new component on and have more power for qualifying. Like I said, Imola is a pretty strong track for me, so I want to take advantage of this track and make sure we can get some good points and have good pace throughout the weekend. So this is our second lap in qualifying 1. You can see there's 13 seconds left in the session. First lap was a banker. We're 16th right now, so technically we could make it through to Q2. Obviously some other people are going to improve their laps, so definitely worth it to go out and give it another shot. This is actually a pretty good lap so far. You can see him up for time in the delta. Hitting the lines really well, honestly. Kind of pushing track limits. I'm really pushing the car here. I just want to see where the limit is exactly. It's still kind of tough to tell with this car what it's capable of and what is over the limit. So especially braking. I know I'm braking at that corner a lot earlier than the AI. They're braking exactly at the 50-meter board, and I probably have to brake, I don't know, maybe 3 meters before it. I mean, it's not a huge difference, obviously, but that kind of stuff matters. You know, that's how you make up lap time, is those 3 meters can equate to about half a tenth. So, yeah, But pretty good lap so far, and we're going to see where it puts us. We're at 18th right now, so we definitely need to improve on this lap, which we are. So let's see where it puts us. And we're through P11 in Q1. Wow. So we're through to qualifying 2, which is great news, especially for the sprint race weekend. We're definitely going to be risking a lot in that sprint race to try to get up the order for the race. So P11 is a really good start. Obviously, it's Q1, so we have our lap in Q2 to do and see where that puts us. But definitely going to try to take advantage of these qualifyings and get up the order. So my lap in Q2 actually wasn't that great, so I didn't really show it. I improved my time, but P13, crucially, we beat Lance Stroll in qualifying, so that's a point for us in the rivalry. And hopefully that'll contribute to ending that rivalry pretty quick. I kind of want that to be over with. I should be able to smash them out of the park. So on to the sprint race weekend. Here we go. So we're going to do mediums. Obviously, it's 11 laps. Mediums should be completely fine. The tire wear won't be too bad. They'll probably start to drop off by the last lap, but only the last lap. I really doubt that lap 10 mediums will be struggling. So yeah, I skipped the formation lap. Obviously, I did it, but it's going to be kind of a longer video, so I got to cut down some of the timing. So yeah, coming up to the grid in our first sprint race ever in this MyTeam career mode. I'm very excited. I love the sprint race format, like I said. Imola is a really good track for me, so I really hope we can make up some points, make up some places into the race. So lights are on, and we're going to be full send in this sprint race. I really want to try to get up the order. And we are sprint racing in Imola. Here we go. Pretty decent start, some wheel spin off the line. It looks like Lance Stroll, my rival, is challenging me up the inside. A little bit of contact there. He's kind of swerving around. I'm swerving around to try to avoid him, and we go up the inside of Lance Stroll. That was pretty easy work to get up the inside with him. And more contact. He just swerves right into the side of us. Hopefully there's no damage. I'm not really too sure. It was pretty light. And Kevin Magnussen's really forcing us to the inside. I have to brake early. I wasn't really too sure where the limit was going to be with braking right there. I didn't want to crash into him. You can see Lance Stroll got overtaken by Sebastian Vettel, so we don't really have to worry about him for right now. And Vettel dives way up the inside, and I go way wide to try to make sure I avoid any type of collision. And now we are back behind Lance Stroll, so we can see if we can maybe go for a move around the outside here, and we do. It works. So that's Lance Stroll behind us for the third time now in the opening lap. Not really the start I wanted. I've lost a place here, so I'm trying to get back towards these guys. I'm burning a little bit of ERS. I really want to keep up with these guys. I really want to gain some positions. We go for a way back dive bomb up the inside of Sebastian Vettel, and that's move done right there. And there's actually a pretty good gap to Vettel behind. That corner is very nice to overtake on because the AI gets squeezed to the inside. It's a very narrow exit, so they have to take a lot of curb on the exit right there, and it kind of slows them down a lot. So pretty big gap to Vettel behind. He's 6/10, almost 7/10 now. Now we're on the back foot. We're a second behind Magnussen, so I really want to burn some ERS and try to stick with these guys. DRS is enabled. We skipped ahead to lap 3. Not really too much was happening, just maintaining the gap to Vettel behind. I gained some time on Magnussen ahead. He's 6/10 now. So I noticed in Imola I lose time probably through the first sector in general, and I gain a lot of time through the second sector, and I'm pretty even on time through the third sector. So it's a pretty even split between all the sectors in terms of gaining and losing time to AI. So not really too concerned if I lose time through sector 1. This lap I didn't, which is really good because that means I'm just going to gain time in sector 2, and that means the gap is going to go down by the time we get onto the main straight and I have DRS. So that's kind of just my thought process right now. We can see a yellow flag up ahead, and it looks like Carlos Sainz is out of the session. That's definitely an engine failure. And look at Sergio Perez's onboard camera. He's completely flooded with smoke, and Sainz almost comes back onto the track there, which could have been very dangerous for Perez. He could have taken him out of the race there, but engine failure for Sainz, so that's pretty brutal. He's going to be starting last in the sprint race tomorrow. That's the one problem with the sprint race format, is that if you're in a top team and you have some type of error, if it's an accident or an engine failure, you're paying the price for it. So the advantage of a backmarker team in this scenario is that if I'm fully sending it and I get damage or something like that, I'm starting P20 or P19 as opposed to P15. And that's only 4 places to make up. So obviously it's a little further away outside the points, but it's not as detrimental and important to the race. So that's really tough for Carlos Sainz. The race is kind of evened out, not really too much happening. I'm just maintaining the gap ahead. I'm trying to save some ERS, and it looks like I'm not maintaining the gap anymore. I'm going to go for a move here if I can. It looks like we're a little too far back, but we go for it up the inside. Same spot where we overtook Sebastian Vettel, exact same move, and that's a really, really, really late lunge. I'm surprised that works. Kevin Magnussen was definitely caught napping there. He was not expecting that. Kind of similar to the overtake we had in Jeddah, where we caught Magnussen napping there as well. So again, look at the gap now to Magnussen. This is the same lap, or sorry, it's technically lap 8, but it's following that overtake, and it's over a second now to Kevin Magnussen. So that overtaking in that corner really, really puts the AI on the back foot. They get squeezed out way wide. So that was kind of a risky move. I really was expecting him to turn in. I didn't expect him to be braking that early, and I didn't expect the car to be fully stopping braking that late. I thought we would definitely lock up or just go straight through the chicane. So definitely glad that we could make that move work. So that puts us into P12 on lap 8. Definitely good. We've gained 2 places since the start of the sprint. Ideally, I would want to get Bottas and start around P11. If I could start closer to the points, obviously that's more ideal. I really think there's an opportunity for some points this weekend, so I'm just trying to push, but unfortunately the ERS is really low. The tires are starting to drop off a little bit. They're not too bad yet. I'm still hitting the apexes and having some good lines in these corners, but I've fallen out of DRS range, unfortunately. So you can see Magnussen's 2 seconds behind. Don't really have to worry about him. We're on the last lap of the race. Bottas just looks a little out of touch. So unfortunately, it looks like it's going to be P12, except Ocon is stuck in the gravel after turn 1, and he's really slow coming back onto the track, and we're going to go right up the inside. So that's kind of a free place for us, but it's a drag race into turn 4. I had to back out of a similar situation like this in lap 1, but luckily we don't have to back out now, and we squeeze Ocon into the inside. So let's see a replay here. I assume he probably just locked up. Yeah, so Daniel Ricciardo was right on his gearbox, and definitely under pressure there for Ocon, and pressure got to him and locked up. Pretty brutal mistake. The AI seemed to make that mistake a lot in Imola. That braking zone is a really hard braking zone. It's turn 1, especially after such a long DRS straight. You're really going quickly, so it's pretty easy to lock up there. But Esteban Ocon is clawing back. He's trying to close that gap. I don't really know if I assume he has better tires than I do at this stage. He probably has better tire wear upgrades. Or he's just in a faster car. That Alpine is definitely quicker than us. He looks like he could go around the outside here. I put my car in the middle. He makes contact with us around the outside. He pushes me wide, and it looks like Kevin Magnussen's going to try to pick up the pieces here. But luckily, I can gain enough traction to put that move to an end. I have no idea what Ocon was doing there, but that's P11 for the sprint race. That's a great result. 3 places from where we started on the grid. I really wasn't sure why Ocon made contact. We'll see a replay here. He just kind of shakes around and slams into me, and it forced me wide. And Kevin Magnussen really tried to come in and squeeze up the inside. So he ended up overtaking Ocon, so he'll be starting ahead of Ocon tomorrow. So P11 for us in the race tomorrow, and Piastri finished P17. Yeah, so here we go for the race weekend.
Hello there and welcome back to Imola, home circuit of the Scuderia Ferrari. We expect to see a lot of local supporters wearing red today, and they've all turned out for what we're expecting will be a sensational event here at the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix. 3.1 miles of track at Imola featuring 19 turns, 9 to the right and 10 to the left. Remember that Imola differs from most other Formula One tracks as it's taken anti-clockwise. Let's hope nobody forgets that today. The exit from turn 18 will probably be the setup for many of today's overtakes, leading as it does into the longest straight on the circuit and its only DRS zone. Let's run you through the driver grid order for today's exciting race. Charles Leclerc lines up on pole position, and starting next to them is George Russell. Considering the rest of the grid, we have Verstappen, Hamilton, Lando Norris, and Fernando Alonso. Perez, they'll be starting further back after an earlier grid penalty. Joe, Bottas, and Ali. Magnussen, Vettel, Lance Stroll, and Mick Schumacher. Oscar Piastri, Tsunoda, Daniel Ricciardo, and Pierre Gasly. Albon, Latifi, Sainz, and Esteban Ocon lines up at the back of the grid. Now it's almost time for lights out, so let's go down to the track.
So Daniel Ricciardo's grid penalty puts us P10 on the grid. Going mediums to hards for strategy, as you can see. But a P10 start, that's really good. We're starting in the points, so that's definitely the right foot forward for the race. I'm very pleased that Ricciardo has a penalty here. So I'm not really too sure what that is. I assume it's an engine penalty. I don't think he kind of got into any mischief during the race that would give him a penalty. But yeah, so grid drop penalty for Ricciardo. Sainz starting at the back, obviously, after that engine failure yesterday in the sprint. That's really tough for him. So that's another place for us. But it's lights coming on, and we are racing in Imola. Kind of a similar start to the sprint race. We're getting overtaken up the inside by Kevin Magnussen, who takes us right away. We're going down into turn 1, steaming into turn 1. There's a lot of people. I'm kind of forced into the middle. I don't really know where to go. But I'm going to go up the middle of both Alfa Romeos, and that's P8. That was a crazy move into turn 1. And Bottas is trying to get some traction to maybe get me back, but it looks like that move is done. Look at this. Look how close. So Guan Yu Zhou locked up on the outside, and that just invited me right up the middle of both of them. I'm really glad that they kind of separated like that, because I was not going to be able to go for a move around the outside or the inside to keep Magnussen behind. So lucky for me, they kind of parted ways and I could just pick up the pieces. So that's a great start to the race. We're P8 right now. We were P11 off the line with Kevin Magnussen overtaking us up the inside, and now we're P8. So that was definitely kind of a full send move, but it worked out for the best. Struggling for traction. I'm getting a little bit understeer. The tires are still a little bit cold. You can see the gap to Lando Norris ahead is kind of starting to open up. Bottas is still a decent amount of time behind me. He's 8/10 behind, so not really too concerned about him. I really want to stick with DRS with this front pack of cars. If I can do that, I can really open up a big gap to the cars behind. So realistically, I won't be able to stick in DRS the entire race to these guys up ahead. I mean, P7 is Norris, P6 is Alonso, and then the next 5 cars are Mercedes, Red Bulls, and Ferraris. So realistically, there's no way I'm going to keep up with these guys. But I know I can for a little while, so that's the game plan now. Try to manage ERS. Definitely going to be using a lot of it, but just try to manage it intelligently. Use the battery when I need to, especially on kind of the straights, corner exits, stuff like that, just to make sure I don't lose touch to these guys. And you can see, even without DRS, there's a 2-second gap to Mick Schumacher behind. So sticking with these guys is definitely the play. I don't think, like I said, we'll be able to stick to them for the whole race, just because I need to use ERS to keep up with these guys. DRS itself won't be enough. I think I'm running a somewhat high rear wing for this race. There's definitely people running lower rear wings than me, so the DRS actually doesn't even help that much. I still lose time to the guys ahead. They're also in kind of a more effective slipstream. They're kind of closer bunched up to each other than I am to them. So that slipstream effect definitely helps them out more than me. So I lose time under DRS. I have to use ERS on the main straight as well. I need to use the battery in order to make DRS even effective. So lap 3 now, kind of jumping around a little bit, skipping ahead. You can see the gap is still consistently 2 seconds to Schumacher behind, so that's really important for this race. I don't want to get overtaken by the Haas. I don't want to battle this race. I want to just do my own race if I can and try to maintain some points. If there is someone faster than me coming through, say Carlos Sainz makes up those positions from last place somehow and gets into P8, I'm going to let him go and try to DRS train off him. There's no point in me fighting faster cars. I'd rather let him go quickly and not lose time battling, going side by side through corners, because that's just not really what I need to do at this stage. I really want to try to get some points. Obviously, only 1 point to our name from that first race in round 1 in Bahrain. We were also close to points in Jeddah. We finished P11, but Piastri hasn't scored any points yet. And I wanted to upgrade his pace in the menu, but I forgot. So I'm going to look at that after this race. I also want to upgrade the pit crew in that same section of the menu. If you guys remember, or if you saw these episodes, Australia last round and in Bahrain round 1, we had slow pit stops in both those races. So that's 2 out of 3 races we've had slow pit stops, and in those cases they cost us time. And it looks like Carlos Sainz is out of the session. That's really tough for him. He was obviously out of the sprint race with a mechanical DNF. He's going slowly on the main straight, and it looks like that is, and it is, it looks like that's another mechanical failure. So that's 2 engine failures for Ferrari in 2 days, both on the same car. That's extremely unlucky for Carlos Sainz, especially at his home race in Italy, Ferrari's home race, I should say, in Italy. That's definitely something Ferrari have to look into. I've never actually seen that on the F1 game. I've seen engine DNFs, you know, round after round. You know, you'll be racing in US and get an engine failure, and then Mexico the next round you get an engine failure. But I've never seen them from sprint race to race day. That's absolutely crazy. So that's definitely something Ferrari should be investigating. Luckily we have Red Bull powertrain, so that's not going to affect us. I don't know of any Red Bull cars that have had mechanical DNFs to this point in the season yet. So yeah, back to the race, lap 5, just maintaining the gaps. Unfortunately, I look like I'm kind of slipping out of DRS range to Norris. ERS is really, really low. Luckily, we still have DRS on the straights usually. Like I said, in either qualifying or practice, I gain time through Sector 2, and I lose time through Sector 1, so I'm not really too concerned that we're down 2/10 out of DRS range right now. Not really a good exit right there. That definitely costs us some time, but usually I can make up those couple tenths through this kind of twisty little bit of Sector 2. So I don't really remember the name of these corners. That's something I'm really bad with. I'm going to try to get better at that. I just call them like turn 1, turn 2, and for this track, for Imola, I don't even know what turn 1 and I don't know. I know what turn 1 is, but I don't know the rest of them. But yeah, sorry, kind of a side note. But I want to get better at knowing the names of all the chicanes and all the corners. I know a lot of them for tracks like Spa or Monaco or stuff like that, the more iconic ones. But for Imola, I just am not familiar with the names. So you can see here, back in DRS of Norris, it's kind of simple as that. 6/10 away, DRS again. You can look at the gap. You can see that switch from lap 6 to 7. I don't really gain much time. And Valtteri Bottas is out of the session as well, so that if that's a mechanical, and it is, so that's 2 Ferrari mechanical DNFs in the same race and 3 over the course of the weekend. Obviously, Alfa Romeo has Ferrari as their engine supplier, and that is crazy. They definitely need to look into the durability. That could be very, very detrimental to their championship fight with Red Bull. And even Mercedes. In real life, Mercedes is not too good. I go way wide there onto the gravel. That's really not a good line. And it looks like that's probably going to put me out of DRS range to Norris ahead. That's probably the final nail in the coffin there. Luckily, I'm still almost 7 seconds ahead of Mick Schumacher, so at least I can try to maintain the gap to him. But I'm in a good spot. I'm just kind of doing my own race then at this point if these guys are 2 seconds ahead and Mick is 6.5 seconds behind. So if I'm just doing my own race, maintaining pace, managing ERS, that's not too concerning. So you can see lap 11 now. And we have a yellow flag, and that's George Russell in the gravel after turn 1. So another mistake, very similar to Ocon in the sprint race yesterday. Let's see a replay here. So no team orders at Mercedes. George Russell's racing hard.
I'm absolutely gutted.
And he is gutted because he locked up into turn 1, very similar to Ocon did. So racing pretty hard with Lewis Hamilton. I believe that could be, oh, that's for second place. So Verstappen is pulled away and is pretty much gone, as you can see in the bottom left hand of the track map. But we overtake Russell, and now he's 4 seconds behind. So that's a free place for us. We're up into P7. Unfortunately, that's going to be tough to keep Russell behind. I'm sure he's going to gain time. We're on lap 11 now. I believe we're boxing lap 14.
Okay, we're boxing this lap. Give us the best in lap you can. Okay, the gap behind is 2.0 seconds.
Yes, so we skip ahead 3 laps. Russell is now 2 seconds behind, so we made up 2 seconds per lap, or not 2 seconds per lap. He made up 2 seconds in the span of 3 laps, and this is our box lap. So we're going to try to push. We saved up a good amount of ERS with Russell behind, so that's probably why he gained so much time, because I wanted to kind of push. A little bit shaky off the exit curb there. The livery's looking pretty good. I don't know. Let me know if you guys like that. I think it looks kind of sick with the red there, but if not, I can go back to the kind of classic one. Probably no one will make it this far into the video anyway because my commentary sucks, but if you do, comment if you like that livery, or I should kind of fill it around with it. So yeah, this is the box lap, kind of pushing, definitely extending track limits. Luckily there we lost time going over those sausage curbs, so didn't really get a warning or anything like that. Right there could have been a warning.
You'll be noticing a bit of grip loss in the tyres around now, so just be careful.
Yes, I'm very aware of that. The tires are completely feeling like they're falling off a cliff. Again, no tire wear upgrades is really tough. So luckily we purchased a tire wear upgrade that'll be going on the car, I believe, after next round. So we're coming into the pits now in a huge lockup into the pit lane. I love those camera angles where you can just barely see them coming in, some huge cloud of smoke from those front tires. But yeah, so coming into the pits now, going to be hard tires, obviously. Softs would not make it or be viable.
We had an issue attaching the right rear wheel. I know it's not ideal, but let's
Another
try
slow
and put that behind
stop.
us now
I
and get
really,
back
really
into
need
this
to invest
race.
money in upgrading the pit crew. That is 3 of 4 races we've had a slow stop, which is that's not okay. Coming out of the pits now, these tires are going to be hard to warm up. So that's definitely going to let George Russell jump us, unless he has a slow stop or he has some type of damage, needs a front wing change, which I doubt. Yeah, George Russell's probably going to jump us now. Obviously, he stayed out 1 lap, so he'll probably be boxing this lap. He was on mediums too, so I'm sure his tires are starting to fall off as well. Just going wide a lot. The tires are really hard to warm up, especially on hard compound tires. Later down the line, when we have some tire upgrades and we can go from softs to mediums or mediums to softs, especially in lower tire degradation circuits, it's going to be so much easier to warm up the tires. So I remember at the beginning of this game I started a lot of races on hards because they were easier to warm up on the formation lap, and then went on to mediums during my pit stop in the race. It helps a little bit, but you lose a ton of time. We go way wide. You can see the tires are still not really up to temperature. They're definitely warmer. You can see they're about 175 degrees Fahrenheit, but that's still not even close to operating window. So just still kind of struggling with the understeer here. You can see really trying to hit these apexes, and it's not as effective as it is with the medium compound tires I had on. So these definitely need a little bit more temperature. I'm sure by this lap they'll be fine. So speeding up, Piastri's in the pits, and we can see George Russell does jump us, so he's about 1.5 seconds in front. Hopefully we can gain on him while his tires are still cold, but it's going to be easier said than done. Obviously he's in a Mercedes. It's probably the 3rd or 4th best car at this stage, and ours is the 3rd or 4th worst car. So not going to be too easy to catch up with him. You can see he's pulling away even on colder tires. Mine are definitely in the operating window now. I feel a lot more comfortable. When the hard tires are in the operating window, I do feel very good on the hard tires in this game. F1 2021, the hard tires were probably the worst tires ever. Even compared to the older games, the hard tires in F1 21 were terrible. So they definitely fixed it in F1 22. They feel a lot better. Still kind of missing apexes, but that's just my driving. There's no excuse for that. So you can see lap 19 now, caught up with Guan Yu Zhou. We're in P9, so he's going to box. He was on hard tires. Kind of did what I was talking about, where he starts on hards and goes to mediums. But that gives us P8. So kind of back where we started when we were behind Lando and all those other guys. Obviously, we passed Russell when he made that mistake, but he got us back. So not really too much gain, not too much lost. I'm not really too upset about losing that position to George Russell. But crucially, Mick Schumacher is still 5.5 seconds behind us. So that's really, really important. Luckily, we were able to maintain that gap. I'm not sure why he didn't gain time when we had that slow stop. He could have been battling maybe, or potentially even had a slow stop himself. I wish I had checked the replay to see when I was in the pits why he wasn't gaining time. But you can see some wheel spin there, bad exit. But yeah, still 6 seconds to Mick. And he doesn't really seem to be battling Magnussen that much. Magnussen's a pretty safe distance behind him. He's definitely under pressure for Magnussen, but it doesn't look like they're swapping places and going side by side through corners or battling or anything. So not really too sure why Mick doesn't have the pace to keep up with this. Maybe it's those upgrades we finally got on the car. I think those could be playing a role. But I'm not really sure why Mick is not having the pace to keep up with us. He could have some type of very light front wing damage that didn't warrant front wing change, and he could be holding up Magnussen behind. That could be what's going on, kind of similar to what happened in Episode 2 in Saudi Arabia. Mick had an engine problem, and it held up Magnussen, and we were able to overtake both of them in one corner. That was a really good overtake, probably the best of the season so far. I will say that move into turn 1 in this race was pretty crazy. Kind of splitting the defense right there with both the Alfa Romeos. That was a pretty good move. But the car's feeling pretty good this weekend overall. It's pretty balanced, I'd say. Not really too much understeer. Through this Sector 2, I really feel confident. Even the AI lift going down into that kind of twisty I don't even know the name of the corner. That twisty like chicane in Sector 2, the downhill one. They lift, and I'm flat out usually. Until the tires drop off, I'm not lifting through there until I get to the braking zone, where I brake, obviously. But the AI lifts around that first corner, and I actually don't need to. So obviously I'm running higher rear wing than them, but I don't think rear wing is going to be what's affecting that on that corner. That's mostly kind of turn in, what you need for aero there. So I think front wing. I could be running a higher front wing as well. I'm not really too sure, but yeah, really confident through Sector 2, which is pretty impressive to me. The car is definitely handling and behaving better than it has in the past. So we can see Mick and Kevin Magnussen are battling it out. It's going side by side into turn 1. So this is really good news for me. Look how close they're getting through turn 1 and turn 2 and back onto this next straight. But it looks like Kevin Magnussen finally got around Mick, and here's me coming around probably 5 or 6 seconds ahead at this point. But that battling is good for me. If they're going side by side through these corners, that's only extending the gap to me. So not really too much teamwork there from Haas. Definitely no team orders to let Magnussen through. He seems to be a lot quicker than Mick, and I don't know why he wasn't let through until now. But we'll see if Mick can stick with Magnussen. If he really starts to fall behind, I assume that means he had some type of damage. But if he starts to fall behind, that means that Magnussen is probably going to be similar pace to me, or even faster. Obviously, we are not faster than the Haas cars at this moment, so definitely something to look out for. So 5 laps left. We're lap 28 out of 32. George Russell is the fastest lap, so he's kind of making up for that mistake, getting another extra point there. But yeah, so I don't know. We're 4 laps left at this point, and I don't think Magnussen's going to have the pace to make up 5 seconds in 4 laps unless we have a major mistake like we did in Australia. If you haven't seen that episode, I just went way too wide on the exit curb on like lap 27 of 30 or something, and just spun and lost about 6 places. So that was pretty brutal. Luckily, we weren't fighting for points that day. So this was much higher stakes. Hopefully, there's no mistake. I'm trying to ease up the pace a little bit now. Just make sure I avoid wheel spin, I avoid bad exits, I avoid going wide or spinning or anything like that. I really want to minimize mistakes. Like I said, the 5-second gap to Magnussen's a pretty decent cushion. Realistically, I don't think he's going to make up that much time, even if I'm just letting off the pace. He definitely needs me to make a mistake or something like that. Usually there isn't any safety cars or VSCs this late in the race in the game. I don't think they're programmed into the game to be this late. Usually by 3 laps left, you can't really get a safety car anymore. So Magnussen's kind of out of luck, unless I make a huge mistake, which I'm doing my best to avoid. So yeah, P8 is kind of been a boring race, just kind of doing my own thing. Like I said, tried to stick with those guys at the beginning, wasn't really able to. Luckily, I was able to long enough to create this gap, which we're now benefiting from, to both the Haas cars behind. So yeah, 5 seconds to Magnussen. Wasn't really expecting that much of a gap, but we're checking with Piastri for what feels like the first time in this race. He's fighting, I believe, we're checking right here, P18, so not really that great. There's 2 DNFs, so that's only 2 people behind him. Probably Nicholas Latifi, I'm sure. I didn't really look, but here we can see, that's Charles Leclerc who makes a mistake into turn 1. So that is Fernando Alonso benefiting from that, and that's Leclerc behind Russell now in front of us. Unfortunately, we're a little bit too far back to capitalize on that mistake from Leclerc, but that is not a great weekend from Ferrari, especially being a race in Italy. It's a home race for the team. 2 DNFs for Carlos Sainz and a huge mistake on the second to last lap for Leclerc that drops him down at least 2 positions from what we've seen, because he got passed by Alonso and Russell. So yeah, not a great showing from them. I'm sure they're going to be pretty disappointed with this one. Last lap now. Magnussen's catching. He's at 4.6 seconds behind. Again, not really too concerned. I'm just trying to minimize the mistakes. I'm using ERS this lap just to kind of end this race with a bang. It's been a little dry. Not really too much has happened. But yeah, going back to that kind of recap, I was able to stick with those guys at the beginning of the race for long enough that I created this gap. And like I said earlier, we're still benefiting from it. They just haven't had the pace. So I don't know if the upgrades we put on kind of brought us a lot closer to Haas, and I just have the pace this weekend. I forgot to mention it in practice and qualifying, but AI level this weekend was 95 in quali and 99 in the race. So 99 is usually where I'm comfortable at. Like I said, Imola is a good circuit for me, but yeah, I definitely feel on the pace. I'm very comfortable with the car. I'm driving kind of subconsciously. Everything's coming naturally. So just a good weekend for Lotus F1 team. So rounding the last corner right now, Max Verstappen is the winner of round 4 in this 2022 season. But we come home to take P8, and we are back in the points. So we had a little bit of a gap those 2 rounds after Bahrain. We were really close to the points, except in Australia. We made that mistake, but we bounced back, and we bounced back good after that mistake in Australia. So, man, that was a good race. Car felt really good. Obviously, that slow pit stop was not ideal, but luckily that didn't really affect us too much. So Piastri finishes P18. Not really surprised with that performance. He's kind of been having some stinkers lately. He's not really performing as good as I thought he would. So we're going to try to look at upgrading him. But if by mid-season he's not performing, we might be looking at getting a new driver into Lotus F1 team. So yeah, we can see we absolutely smashed Lance Stroll out of the park in the rivalry breakdown. It's 7-3 after qualifying the sprint and the race. So that's always good. Hopefully we can get that rivalry done soon and get that acclaim up, and hopefully sign more sponsors, get some more money. So yeah, I can see playing around with the livery here. Seriously, let me know if you guys like the livery. I don't really know. I liked the metallic, but in the race it didn't look as good as I thought it would. So I could just go back to kind of the black and gold classic Lotus, but yeah. So that was the race. I thought that was a really good one. We're back in the points finally. Yeah, so round 4 is done. First sprint weekend was definitely a success. Definitely some stuff for Ferrari to take a look at internally. But we're Red Bull powertrain, baby. We're going to keep chugging along. So hopefully we can get points in the next one, and I'll see you then.